Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Bundesliga show brought to you by Over the Bar. We are back. Bundesliga footy is back. Tuning in this evening for some predictions ahead of match week 11. So really looking forward to getting stuck into this. Joined this very cold evening by Mark. How are you doing? It's a bit frosty in Sheffield. We've had a bit of snow. What's it like in Nuremberg?
Yeah, it's Baltic basically. Yeah, it's pretty freezing, and it's not my time of year, to be honest. I miss the sun and the heat already. To be honest, it's a little bit too cold, but yeah, it is what it is. We better get down to the football again in a couple of weeks, and yeah, see how it goes.
Yeah, to be fair, I like this time of year. I don't mind the cold, or like he says that, like wrapped up in a hoodie and stuff. But I don't mind this time of year. Kind of nice. I kind of just feels easier to warm up rather than when you're boiling hot to cool down. But hey ho, yeah, we're not here to talk about the seasons of the world. We're here to talk about Bundesliga footy. So it should be good fun. Some good games this weekend, and no more international footy until March. Hallelujah. I mean, it's just I just find it so turgid. I really do. But anyway, it might be a bit more exciting with Thomas Tuchel coming in to take over the England job, I'm sure. Let's get stuck into tonight's show. If you can give a thumbs up for the first show in a little while, and obviously for tonight, comment along, give us some predictions yourself, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss out on anything big. Run up to Christmas now until the winter break, so we're very much looking forward to getting stuck in to plenty of content, hopefully doing a few more different shows, some guests that we're trying to bring back a little bit for you all. Also, of course, big shout out to our partners, Bundesliga Boxes, who are still obviously working very hard about getting their boxes out for Christmas, and of course our partners with partnership with Bully News, and we'll be back tomorrow evening, or I will be back with Runa for fantasy football action as well. So plenty to look forward to. Right, Mark. So do you want to kick us off and lead off with the Friday evening fixture as it's a Bavarian derby?
Yeah, we can do. Obviously, it's rare that we see Bayern Munich kicking off on the Friday games, isn't it? I'm sure they won't be that happy as well, considering the fact that the international fixtures only finished a couple of days ago, didn't they, on Tuesday evening? And I know a lot of Germany players were in action on Tuesday evening too, so I'm not sure whether there'll be too many happy faces in Munich. That part of Munich anyway, come Friday evening. I'm sure they'll have a little bit to say about the Friday night fixture, but obviously they do invite Augsburg to the stadium. It is their closest rivals in terms of the Bundesliga at the moment, so it is quite an event. Obviously myself and Peter were at the last time these two teams met as well, which ended up in an entertaining 3-2 win for the away side, which was Bayern Munich at that time. But there were missed penalties, a lot of goals, but unfortunately, I don't think we'll see so much of a competitive match in this particular time, because I just think Bayern Munich, despite the fact that, the likes of Kimmich played only a couple of nights ago, I just feel as though they're so hot at the moment, really. And they probably didn't play the best against Pauli on the match day before the break, but they still won the game in what I believe was a tricky fixture. And I think they should have an easier night against an Augsburg side who are really strong at home, but just don't travel well away from home. Obviously, they did pick up a point on the last away game against Wolfsburg, but this is a different level of assignment to them in away at Bayern Munich. There's so many on-form players. Olise, Harry Kane just keeps scoring and scoring. Even the defense recently has been keeping clean sheets. The likes of Kim is improved. Upamecano is playing a little bit better too. And everything's just working out for them at the minute. Pavlovic is playing brilliantly. And I don't think it's going to be a hammering in this game, but I'm going to go for a 3-0 home win here. What do you think, Rory?
Yeah, I can't see past Bayern, but I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens in respect to Bayern's goalkeeping situation, because obviously we know that Neuer is a bit of a doubt, and their second choice keeper, loathing myself now because I've forgotten his name, but it's also been ruled out for personal reasons. Ulreich has been ruled out for personal reasons. So the third choice goalkeeper may well need to come in and do a job. So that might give some encouragement to FCA fans. But yeah, I think their last win in Munich was back in 2015-ish. So yeah, going back a little while there for the FCA to claim or anything from the little trip over to Munich. So I'm saying 3-1 myself. So we'll then run into the Saturday afternoon games. Lots of action for us on Saturday. Starting with Leverkusen and Heidenheim. Heidenheim, of course, had such a hot start to the season. Really good, enjoyable stuff. But their progress stalled. They lost their momentum. The goals started to dry up. Maybe linked to obviously the fact that Vanna was, also his goals were starting to dry up. I don't think he is available for Heidenheim either. So again, worry about perhaps the goals that they might score. Of course, Pierre Ringer has done a good job in scoring for them, and the acts of Scienza and Sir Lord Conte have done okay. But yeah, also a trip away to the champions. It strikes me as a good way for Alonso's men to just get the ball rolling again and try and get on a bit of a run and get back involved in this title race and get their season kick-started, basically. So I expect Leverkusen to win. I am going to say probably 3-0 as well. I think it's going to be quite comfortable for the home side and get themselves back on track. What do you reckon, Mark?
Yeah, it's difficult to argue with a home win. Obviously, the issue with Leverkusen is just they keep conceding leads this season. It's very, very uncharacteristic of them, and they've been hit by their own curse basically a lot in recent times. Obviously, a last-minute goal against Bochum denied them 3 points last time. On the away trip before that, a last-minute for the 2-2 against Werder Bremen, and Kiel equalised, I think, in the last 10 minutes when they went to Leverkusen as well. So there's been a lot of leads given away. And I don't really feel as though Leverkusen are playing badly by any means. I just feel as though the bite isn't there, and that they're not closing games. They're not scoring quite as many goals. To be honest, the goals don't seem to be quite as available all over the pitch that they were last season. We've not seen as many goals from the likes of Tapsoba, Tar, Grimaldo, Frimpong this season. And remember, I think Frimpong and Grimaldo both got in double figures for goals last season, and we've not seen anything like that this season. So a lot of it has fallen upon Boniface, who's been mostly good. But there's still a lot of players that have not really hit the stride this season. I think the likes of Terrier needs to do better as well. But overall, this is a Heidenheim team who are just starting to sink. You are starting to get that sinking feeling for them at the minute, aren't you? And I do hope they stay up because they're a likable club, the whole Frank Schmidt story. And they're actually representing Germany really well in Europe as well. Like, they won all 3 games in the Conference League. But my fear all along was that it was going to be too much for them, too many games, too fast. And that's the way it's been the last 8 games. So they've only picked up 4 points from the last 8 games. And I'm going to go for a 3-1 here simply because Leverkusen don't seem to keep many clean sheets this season. But definitely a home win here for me. So, yeah, I'll take you on to another game, which probably most people have down as a home banker as well. It's a good weekend for the home banker bettors this weekend, I think, isn't it? But, Stuttgart hosting Bochum. What can you say about Bochum? I mean, it was by far their best performance under Hecking against Leverkusen, by an absolute country mile, their best performance of the season. So there's definitely reason for hope there that they can still compete this season, at least make a fight of it. They've got some good players, Sissoko, De Witt, Hofmann is coming back into a little bit of form as well. Audet's at the back. And there's even been news about Riemann potentially being recalled as well. I've heard that he's not quite ready to go in the starting lineup, so I think we'll still see Dreves lining up in net for Bochum. But you never know, before the Christmas break, we could potentially see the great man and club legend back between those sticks where he belongs again for Bochum. But this game, I think Stuttgart have had a funny season for me. I don't quite know how to describe their season because at times they've been brilliant. You know, the demolition of Dortmund, the famous win in Juve where they basically battered them for 90 minutes and then got the 93rd minute winner. But then we've also seen some really lackluster performances, haven't we? Like the, Atalanta most recently, and some in the league as well, if we're being honest. So it's been a very up and down season. It's definitely not hit the heights of last season, which could be similar to Heidenheim, the fact there's too many games of football for a relatively small roster of players. I think Stuttgart will win this game, but I think they'll have to fight to win it, to be honest. I can actually see a 2-1 here. I don't think they're going to win it easy. It might be similar to the Kiel game we saw a few weeks ago. What do you think, Rory?
Yeah, I've big worries for this one. The Stuttgart, like many teams, are the walking wounded. So many players out. Sebastian Hoeneß at his pre-match press conference today confirmed. Well, we know there's no Daxo. That's Zagadou. There's no Labeling. No Raimond, but obviously he's a young player. No Undav, no Bilal Toure, no Al Dakil, and Stiller and Chase are doubtful. Like that, a lot of pressure falls on, Demi and Furyk to be the creative sparks. I'm obviously Mio, I guess, but the defense will still be fairly patched up. Bochum will have an element of confidence with them. Obviously, their away form is pretty trash, and if Stuttgart can get ahead early, you'd probably imagine that it would be a little bit more of an easy game for the VfB. But yeah, I agree. I think it'll be a really close one, and I think 2-1's pretty spot on, and it'll be a needed win for Stuttgart because they've been on a bit of a downer pre-international break with the Atalanta and Frankfurt losses. We'll stick with that and move on to another interesting matchup. And this is, of course, we usually say beleaguered Bochum, don't we? But is it beleaguered Borussia? Because they've been all over the place this season, really. And, Nuri Sahin, obviously has been questioned heavily in the fan base and, pressure on his role as head coach. But either way around, they'll be looking for home comforts. Got a pretty good record in head-to-head against Freiburg, obviously, especially at home. So they'll have that on their coattails. Freiburg, obviously, made a really impressive start to life under Schuster and post, strike, and we've talked about that quite a lot. The fact that they'll be missing, they should be missing Junior Dumu, but his form had dropped off, so it might not be necessarily a bad thing for the young striker to have a bit of time off. I think Atabolu is also injured, so probably mean to go in net for Florian Muller. So Girassi might be licking his lips at that one. If Girassi is fit, and I haven't read that he is not fit, and that obviously he would have been playing for Guinea in the end, in the international break, he might fancy himself. So I will back Dortmund basically just on the fact that they're home and maybe that goalkeeper switch out. So I will say should be an exciting one though. 3-2 for me. What about what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think this one screams of home comforts for Dortmund, because they have won every home game of the season so far, despite their appalling away form. I mean, they basically turned into Augsburg this season, effectively, like really strong at home, but absolutely hopeless on the road. And they do score goals at home, whether it's just the fans, that fantastic 82,000 at the Signal Iduna Park, and they do tend to get over the line at home, whether it's domestically or in Europe, don't they? They've still been conceding goals at home, though. As you say, they conceded 2 against Heidenheim. Yeah, 2 against Bochum too. Yeah, 2 against. So they're games that you would expect them not to be conceding 2 in. So Freiburg will believe there's hope here. And Freiburg did play well against Union. It was a 0-0, but they missed a penalty and had a massive clearance off the line as well in that game. So on another day, they could easily have won that 2-0, to be honest, which would have been a pretty good win in truth. So they travel in hope, but I agree. This is one of them where Dortmund always seem to beat Freiburg. They have a very good record against them, especially at home. And I remember even better Freiburg teams than this have been hammered at the Signal Iduna Park. So you got to fancy the home side. So I've gone for a 3-1, but I think it'll be a competitive 3-1, and it could be similar. It could be 2 goals in the last 20 minutes or so to take them clear in this one, but should still be a good watch because they're usually good games and open games between Dortmund and Freiburg. So let's move on to the next game, which is the match dubbed by some in Germany as El Plastico between Hoffenheim. I'm sure Hoffenheim and Leipzig fans won't mind me saying that, but this is obviously 2 company clubs. It's SAP software against Red Bull fizzy drinks. So basically, who comes out on top in this one? Obviously, most people will probably have the eyes on the away side in this one, but Leipzig have had a really poor run of late, and they basically were well beaten at Dortmund, I felt, 2 weeks ago, and then 1 week ago they were kind of lucky to get a point at home to Gladbach as well, especially after that first half. And then they were well beaten at Celtic Park as well. So there's also been questions over Marco Rosa's future as well. There's only slight questions yet, but defeat here or even a draw could potentially, accelerate those talks. But as it happens, despite Leipzig also being another team that are quite patched up at the minute, there's going to be players missing for them.
Very much.
But I do think they'll get the win, though. I think it's one of these games they simply have to win this game. And I think they will get a narrow 2-1. Rory, do you agree?
Yeah, I do. And it's, mainly based on the fact that I think Leipzig's firepower will be too much for it. Also patched up Hoffenheim side. No Unsolki, Lenz, no Kabak for Hoffenheim as well. No Bischoff either, the young midfielder. No Bebu or Tabakovic either. Obviously, they're bit part players at the moment because you've got the likes of Klozek and Marius Bulter and Kramaric up top. So, I suspect Hoffenheim will be good for a goal. It's about keeping them out at the other end. So, inclined to say 2-1 or 3-1 if Openda and Šeško can come back and feel fresh from the international break. They might be able to fill their boots. At the pre-zero arena. So that takes us into another Saturday fixture, which obviously VfL Wolfsburg versus Union Berlin. Slightly trickier one to call this, I think, out of the 5 games that we've called so far. I think this is probably the hardest one to kind of get a grasp on right now. Union, probably one of the sides with the kind of fewest amount of injuries right now. There's no one massive that you kind of say, I think there are doubts over Juranovic and Rulter, which would be big misses for Union, but the home side equally have got a number of players out. No Roggiero, still no Nemecha, Lovro Meyer, Mailer, Kaminski. These injury lists are just a joke at the moment. Like, this is what international football is doing to club, to club teams, and injuries are just rife everywhere. It's what players have been saying for a long while. There is too much football, and I know a lot of people have different views on it or whatever, but it's leading to these massive injury lists, isn't it? Back onto this game. Both sides, somewhat patchy form right now. Union, especially away from home recently, haven't been up to too much. So I think fancy Wolfsburg to get a positive result on Saturday. So I might go for a 2-1 home win. Maybe the likes of Amura and Jonas Wind could get themselves on the score sheet. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it seems as though we great minds think alike today, Rory. Like quite often when we do it with you or Peter, we have a lot of disagreements, but so far we're on the same. I thought you might have gone for a draw there, to be honest, Rory, but no, you've gone the same as me. I also fancy Wolfsburg in the game. As you say, Wolfsburg have got injuries. The likes of Meyer, Kaminsky are definitely losses, and Nemecha seems to have been missing for years, basically now, doesn't he? But it's a massive squad, Wolfsburg, basically. And even with those injuries, they've still got the likes of Amura, who recently got very, very good ratings from the kicker as one of the best signings of the season as well, which is quite a high accolade from one of Germany's best publications as well. So I think he's got 2 goals, but also like 6 or 7 assists, which is really good. And, you know, he's a very fast man, and he's been probably their best player this season, in truth. And this is a game that he'll look. There probably won't be many goals in this game because Union like to keep it tight, especially away from home. I've gone for the 1-0 here to Wolfsburg, and I could see like a Jonas Wind goal. The thing for Wolfsburg, though, is can they put in a 90-minute performance? They managed to do it against Heidenheim. Although some would argue against that because the first half they were very, very good, but it took a great save from the impressive Grabara to keep it at 2-1 as well. They won 3-1 in the end with the breakaway goal, but it wasn't the most convincing second half performance at Heidenheim. But, you know, in contrast to Peter, I do rate Hasenhüttl. I think he has got some quality in him, and I think he will come good with this Wolfsburg side. But this is a game that they've got to target as a win. Back-to-back wins could really accelerate their season and make a different look because, as you can see, if they win the game, they could well go into the top half as well, which would be decent for them. Europe will be the aim for Wolfsburg this season, as it is every year. And I still believe that they could potentially get, 7th or 8th if that's enough this year, but who knows. But I do see a 1-0 home win for the Volkswagen men in this game. So let's move on to the top spiel, and it's quite a tasty-looking top spiel, isn't it? Between probably, the second best team in the league at the minute, Eintracht Frankfurt, against a team for me who are also having a good season, Werder Bremen as well. And this looks like a good top spiel, 2 tradition clubs. There'll be a great atmosphere, a great away following from Bremen as well. And as always, a strong home following as well, the Commerzbank Arena. But you've got to fancy the home team, haven't you? Because they're just so good at the minute, really. I was really impressed with the professionalism of the performance for most of it against Stuttgart. Stuttgart played pretty well in that game, but I think Frankfurt just hit them on the break time after time. Ekitike and Marmouche have just been the stars of the season, really, in many ways, and they were excellent again. They'll be a little bit annoyed about the way the last 5 minutes, though. I mean, to almost literally, it looked as though Stuttgart got the 3-3 in that game. I mean, they were literally saved by a millimetre offside. And that also happened at Union as well in their away game before that. So they do have to be a bit cleverer defensively. I'm still not fully convinced by Robin Koch, who also gave away a penalty against Hungary as well. That must be about 20 penalties he's given away this season, really. But he's not impressed me, in truth. And Kevin Trapp, I'm still not 100% sure on him either. For me, I would have kept the young Brazilian in there after that impressive run of form. Trapp, I don't feel as though he's still the same keeper anymore for me. But I still think Frankfurt, just the quality in attack and midfield, Larsen, Shaqiri, it's just absolutely packed with quality. And this is starting to look like another strong Frankfurt rebuild, isn't it? And for me, they will get the win. I think it'll be a tough game, but I'm going to go for a 3-1 home win for Frankfurt here. What do you think, Rory?
Yeah, I mean, a top spiel with probably 2 of the form teams in the league prior to the international break, as you say, because Frankfurt, arguably one of the second, the second best team in the league. Werder, I think, have captured the imagination, especially on the road. This season, they taken 3 wins from their last 5, including a draw in there with Leverkusen. So certainly feeling confident about their own performances. So I see a really good contest. I think it'll just be a home win. I think I'd probably err on the side of maybe 2-1. Blows in the sense for both sides of that. There'll be no Steg for Werder by the sounds of it, and no Ekatike for Frankfurt either. So obviously the pressure then very much sits on Marmoush in that sense to bag the goals perhaps, or maybe come in the support of Goetze or Canal for Mbimbe. But yeah, I'd say 2-1 on that one, and it should be a good game on Saturday evening to enjoy. So moving on to our 2 Sunday matches that we have, and we'll kickstart with Holstein Kiel and Mainz, and this certainly is if we were talking about 2 teams feeling good about themselves. Unfortunately, Holstein Kiel and Mainz can't really say the same, because both sides have been a bit scratchy in many senses of the word. I mean, it's very important that Kiel try and make the most of their home games. I just was having a look at this a little bit earlier on and seeing who was available for either side. The only real worry, in a sense, for Mainz, I think, is that they won't have Viper, but he's been injured a lot anyway. I think there's a bit of an injury worry about Onisiwo, but again, it's mainly been Johnny Burkhardt and Sieb who have been doing the front running for them. And I think they'll have a really good opportunity to get some goals against Kiel, who are also missing a handful of players. No Kalati, no Pitchler, and doubts over Bernhardsen and Skripski. So, tricky for the home side, I think, and it could be a really important away win, actually, for mine. So I'm going to back the 0-5ers to just about get over the line. I will say 2-1 to Mainz, I'm saying. What about yourself?
I thought you were going to go for a 0-5 result there, for a minute. But they'd be quite happy with that one. But this was the game, actually, this weekend that gave me the hardest headaches, to be honest, to predict, because I've always been a big backer of Mainz, and they got that really good win against Dortmund. I know Dortmund played long periods with 10 men, but still, to win it in that style and to win that easily was still impressive. And at times they've shown good form this season. They have done well, but it has been very up and down from them, almost ridiculously up and down at times. I mean, they've gone from a team that look like they can score for fun, then the game after they look like they can't hit a barn door with a proverbial banjo. You know what I mean? So you really don't know what's going to come from them. Kiel have produced the best run of the season. I think the last 2 games, they deservedly beat Heidenheim, and then they were unlucky to lose at Bremen as well, which I thought was probably their best performance of the season overall, to run a good Bremen side that close. I do like Harris as well. I think me and Peter have talked about him. They literally plucked him from the 4th division, basically, and he's gone into the side so that's almost like going from like League 2 to Premier League for you English football watchers. So it's definitely a Roy of the Rovers kind of story, But he's done well since he came into the side. I do like Knudsen as well and Gigovic. I think they've done well in midfield, and they've actually looked better than what Holtby did when he was starting. So I hope he goes with them again. But to be honest, I was also on the lines that Mainz are going to win this game. I just think they got too much quality ultimately. Amiri, Sieb, Johnny Burkhardt has just been brilliant this season as well. Hanke Olsen should be back in the side too. I think Bell has been good in his absence. But it should be a Mainz win, really. I did toy with maybe Kiel pulling off an upset here, but I'm going to go for a 2-0 away win in this one. So, I'll conclude the weekend, which is another game between 2 brilliant tradition clubs. It's going to be a brilliant atmosphere there, the late kickoff on the Sunday between Gladbach and St. Pauli. This is going to be a full house, a fantastic pyro, I'm sure, some choreo and all that. But as for the game, it's also an interesting challenge because, Gladbach have, for the first time in seemingly years, put a bit of consistency together. They've gone 4 unbeaten. They've still not managed to get that elusive back-to-back win for the first time in 2.5 years. But obviously they won't be able to do it in this game because they drew the last one. But 4 unbeaten by Gladbach standards is titanic at this moment because normally they're such an up and down team. And it's been like that basically since the Marco Rosa days. This is a game their fans will expect them to win. I mean, Gerardo Sioane a couple of weeks ago looked like he was on the way out, basically. I even thought they might fire him after the loss in the cup against Frankfurt. Yeah. But he survived that, and they look very good against Leipzig. I mean, to keep a clean sheet in the Red Bull Arena is not easy, and they deserve credit for that. And they pose quality themselves too. And I think Kleindienst obviously getting his first 2 goals for Germany as well. He's been one of the revelations of the season. I mean, we've always loved him on this show, but he seems to have upped his game even more since joining Gladbach, and I think he's been fantastic. Will we see Sturger back in the team? Probably not, in truth, after the form that they showed. Player has been on one of his better runs in recent times. As for Pauli, I mean, for me, they've been the unlucky story of the season, to be honest. I feel as though they should have a lot more points on the board than they do. Jackson Irvine has been another kind of revelation season in midfield. I do like Afolayan as well. I think he's been really good, the former Bolton winger. And in defence, he looks solid. And there is quality in that team, but they've not got the points that they should have done yet. And that will be a concern for Blessing and his boys because, if they do go on a bad run now, then they could start getting cut adrift, potentially. But for me, this will be a home win. I just feel as though Gladbach are really starting to get something together and could challenge for Europe as things stand. I don't think it'll be easy because Pauli have shown away from home that they can score goals, particularly on the break. But I think it's going to be a 2-1 home win for the Foles in this one. Rory?
Yeah, hard to disagree with what you said there. I think, again, the away side is struggling with some injuries that stripped them of their capabilities. Obviously missing Elias Saad, and a few others. I think Metcalf as well in that midfield role is going to be missing. Gladbach, one of the few teams again with lesser injury worries, and like you mentioned, that Kleindienst, Player, Hack, and Honorat's kind of front four has been kind of shaping up quite nicely. So you'd imagine they'd create enough between them, with the likes of Chivanchera and Sturger and other players to come off the bench and do well. So I think I will say 2-0, but absolutely agree that it would be a home win and push Gladbach further up the table and maybe release a little bit of pressure that has been on the head coach Gerardo Sioane. So that brings us to an end this evening for our first show back since the latest international break. So very happy to have got back on the horse and kind of stuck into things. Mark just kind of scrolling over and having a look at the table as we've predicted. We'd still have a very similar looking top four. With Gladbach maybe nestling into that 6th place position if results go their way. And then further down, we would still have, again, a similar picture being painted with that bottom 3 staying the same. But the likes of Hoffenheim and particularly Heidenheim being dragged into the mix. And maybe if Augsburg get a bit of a seeing to in Munich, it could also start to look a little bit more hairy for them. But good stuff as ever. So we will be back tomorrow morning for fantasy football. Obviously, big show because obviously it's an unlimited draft until the Friday night kickoff. So me and Runa will be tuning in or commencing recording at 8:30 a.m. UK time. Looking forward to that one, and then I'll hand over to yourself, Mark, to just conclude all things for this evening.
Yep, so don't forget that we are on Instagram as well. We document all of our travels across the Bundesrepublik on there. So check out at Over the Bar FB on Instagram as well. And don't forget, we're also on Twitter, at Over the Bar FB and at Village Footy if you want to follow Rory. And then, as Rory already mentioned earlier in the show, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on your notifications to stay with us and follow all of the Over the Bar latest news. Don't forget to join the guys tomorrow morning as well for the latest fantasy draft. So, thanks a lot, guys. And we'll be back on Monday to talk about it all and see how close our predictions were. So, see you then, guys. Ciao, ciao.